It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today's date is the 15th. Is it right? 15th of December? Yeah, it's 10 days before Christmas.
10 days before Christmas,
10 days
Brad.
before Christmas. And all the, on the 10th day of Christmas, my true love said to me. No, that's not what it is. Okay. You know what it is, John? You know what we do in the B block? Because that's where we're at right now.
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It is. Ladies, I'm glad you're here. TGIM. One more time.
It's time for Brad's Top.
And we start the whole thing off with...
It's number 3.
You know, my friend Cindy Cristofanelli sent me something the other day. And this is by, what I want to say, this is by no means self-serving, John. When I talk about this, this is not self-serving. A couple of times, matter of fact, I think I might have done 3 times, I was asked to be a guest speaker for the St. Charles County Republican Committee when they have what they call like candidate university or something like that. And what it is, it's for candidates who've never run for office. Mainly the people who take this course are like running for school boards, and sometimes they're running for state reps, and sometimes it's even, you know, fire boards, things like that. People get elected too. So Cindy sent me this, and there's one. Some people would say one great thing this year, and other people would say there's one glaring error this year. And you know what that is, John?
What's that, Brad?
I'm not one of the presenters. Now, the reason I bring this up...
Oh, they're doing another one?
Oh, yeah. Here, let me...
Nice. Okay, what are the details, Brad?
Well, here, let me pull this up real quick because of the fact that I thought I had it here, and I thought I had it printed out, and I don't. So let me just see if I can pull the thing up again. Oh no, man, my phone's getting funky again. Supposedly I'm getting a new phone today. How about that, John? Okay, here she is, Cindy. And
wow, that's awesome.
And I'll pull up the thing right here. And, okay, here it is right here. She says, she put on this thing. This is the relationship I have with Cindy. What happened? Did they dump you? That's what she sends me the text. And it's the 2020.
And how many years has it been since you spoke there, Brad? How many years has it been?
Since what? Since I spoken with Cindy?
Yeah. No, since you spoke at the event. You haven't been there in a couple years.
No,
right?
I did it last year.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. This is the 2026 candidate school for anyone interested in running for an elective office. It's Saturday, January 10th. I'll say it's right. This is open to anybody. So Saturday, January 10th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Spencer Road Library, 427 Spencer Road, St. Peter's 63376. Coffee, juice, bagels, muffins served. Doors open at 8:30. $25 per attendant. Now, the reason I mention this is this bothers me. Not that I was not invited, but there's a big picture thing. Now, John, I'm going to read you the guest speakers here. Mike Summer, CPA, MEC expert, okay? He's great. I've seen his presentation many times. That is worth attending just alone because he goes into the whole thing about filing, and he's been the treasurer for a lot of campaigns. Although somebody told me he closed down his practice. Did you know this? Somebody told me.
No, I didn't. But you're right. He's highly accomplished, Brad. Okay, who else?
Miles Summer, treasurer, St. Charles County Republican Central Committee. Is that his son? It's spelled the same way, Sommer.
I don't know. Maybe it is.
Okay, Jacqueline Neal, WinRed, account rep. That's the official GOP Secure Payments website. Jane Pushkar, Francis Howe, host school board and candidate for FHSB 2026. Tom Smith, who you know very well, owner of Survey St. Louis. And Colin Wellenkamp, Missouri State Rep, 105th District, first ran in 2024. Okay, John, what is missing from that list of presenters?
Nothing. So what you have is somebody there who's an expert on compliance. You have somebody who's Miles, it appears to be, probably could speak to the general nature of the committee. You have WinRed, which is important. Democrats have a version called Act Blue. I'm reading the list in front of me that I have now. You have Jane Pushkar, a local election expert that you don't like because she doesn't spend any money with you. You have Tom Smith, a guy who can successfully say that yard signs do not suck, despite what Brad says. And then you have Colin Wellenkamp, who will be reelected and will be probably the only race in St. Charles County within 5 points. Brad, your point was that they needed a radio salesman there, right?
No. Bigger picture. Last year, it was supposed to be me and Mike Elam. At the last time, Mike had a conflict or something like that. And Mr. Eno, who's now the chairman out there, called me up and said, can you speak to digital as well, too? Mike recommended you as well as a digital expert because you do this every single day. And I said, yes, I can do that. My point is this. They do things the same all the time. And these are the Republicans, okay? I know there's, Tom Smith, he's an expert at what he does, and it's yard signs, and this little app that you walk around the neighborhood and you knock on doors. There are things that just don't work anymore. And for example, I heard a funny comedy bit over the weekend about how this guy who's probably in his 50s or so talked about how when he was a kid, they would go caroling. They would go out into neighborhoods and they would stand in front of people's front yard and they would start to carol, and the people would they would open up the door and the kids would come and sit in the porch and the mom and dad. And now if you go out caroling, you get the police called on you because you're trampling on their grass and you're disturbing them from watching their Netflix special.
And their Ring camera would go off again, disturb their Netflix viewing. You're right.
Right. Okay. So the example is, and this is maybe my roundabout way of saying this, is I don't think that in the future you will be able to win any kind of a race unless you have some kind of digital footprint or social media presence. And that's my thing on this.
I got to interrupt, Brad. Do you think that Tom Smith won't mention the importance of digital?
I was there. He didn't say a word about it.
Okay, and so the last time you gave and you claim that you gave a presentation this year?
Yeah. No. Well, not this year, last year, whatever, 2024.
In 2024. Okay,
yeah,
and you said that. Okay, but you were there to talk about digital, and according to your look at this agenda, you're saying there's a gaping hole there because no one is listed on the agenda specifically as talking about digital.
Tom Smith, at one point in time, it was sort of interesting because when there was another speaker up there speaking, Tom Smith just sort of broke in and started holding up examples of his yard signs. And I'm going like, oh, God. Look at this one. And it was sort of funny. I'm going like, he wasn't even the featured speaker then. And he's holding up these yard signs. Now, let me tell you, this is a good yard sign because of this. Okay, I get it. I'll never understand the yard sign thing because, quite honestly, I think it's, like John, John's going to make fun of the fact that we don't have ratings with the radio station. I threw it back at him. I go, okay, show me the ratings of a yard sign. Show me how effective. Show me statistics that yard sign was viewed X amount of times.
Other radio stations pay for ratings, but right. I get your point, Brad.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no way to give a rating on. You can't assign ratings or attention to a yard sign. Your point's taken, Brad.
Okay,
for sure.
But here's the interesting thing for me. Jane Pushkar, and I'm not beating up on her. Maybe I'm a little bit. But she lost her last election. Okay? That would be like if you went to a gym and you were going to learn to box.
You had a fat guy giving you advice on how to lose weight.
Well, no. You went to a gym and you wanted to learn how to box. And the guy who got up there and box is like got a broken nose and they said, and he says, you know what? I've never won a boxing match in my life, but let me tell you how to box. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and so let me ask you this, Brad, because I am not an expert on St. Charles County elections. Did Jane Pushkar ever win an election?
Oh, yeah. She was on the school board.
Okay, so what you're saying is that she knows how to win elections, and she lost her most recent one.
But I don't think she's an expert on this because, see, here's the thing. To me, and I know you say you know how these people are, the Colin Wellenkamp and people like that. I think what you need to do, I think this to me is the perfect example of being myopic. That to me, it's like right now, if someone were to give a class in advertising and not mention a word about AI, that would be, to me, heresy.
Yeah, absolutely right, because it's such an important piece. It would be short-sighted. It would be outdated is what you're saying,
right.
Brad.
And the point being is, these are the Republicans. They keep doing the same thing over and
Brad,
over
let me
and
ask
over
you
and
this.
over.
Now that you do a show with me, you know that people actually hear what you have to say. And other than being on our show and kvetching about this on the air, did you reply to Cindy? And I already know the answer to this. Did you reply to Cindy with something constructive that says, it looks like no one's covering digital? Maybe you should suggest that Tom or others could cover digital. Did you do anything constructive with your angst, or are you just complaining about it?
I responded to Cindy Cristofanelli. I got replaced by Jane, and this is actually what I said. I said, you notice no media. And once again, it's not going to hurt my feelings if they. And see, the interesting thing about this is, I go to my leads group on Friday. Okay, great group called the Friday Networking Group, FNG, and it's run by Anna Alt. And I'm down with this. I get it. I'm not going to say, you people are all screwed up, you need to buy radio all the time. I get it. And I have, matter of fact, in the past 6 months, I've taken a deep dive into social media and video production. Matter of fact, I spent probably 8 hours yesterday learning my new software to do digital editing for me to put stuff on the internet and Facebook and things like that. I just think it's just very myopic that they don't pay attention to this. And to me, it's like okay. And look, I know Tom Smith's one of your friends, okay? He has like a playbook. And it's like if Vince Lombardi
You're saying, I'm going to interrupt you, Brad, because we're running low on time. I'm going to interrupt you and say your point is that Tom Smith hasn't updated his playbook. From what you saw in 2024, he was speaking to an old school playbook. And your point, which is well taken, is that the St. Charles County Central Committee should have someone talking about new media and digital. I think you made that point, Brad.
It's like Vince Lombardi coming back to life and running and being a head coach of one of the teams. He'd get slaughtered because the game has changed. You get what I'm saying?
And he'd bring in Phil Rivers, Brad. And everybody knows that Phil should be making babies with a woman who still ovulates productively. Brad, I've been curious about what your story number 2 is.
Okay, you want to go to number 2? Here we go.
It's time for Brad's number 2. It's time for Brad's number 2.
My number 2, and I'll keep it short and sweet, something I brought up before, and John would always clap me down at the fact that when they talked about the 7-1 district and this whole crazy district map. Hold on a minute.
It's an awesome piece, and you can find it today at johnconvest.com. Nobody better to write about it than Jason Rosenbaum.
He brings up the fact that it very well may come to, they may take a serious look at Mo District 1 because of the fact that with the Voting Rights Act of 1965 being in front of the United States Supreme Court, that very well may go bye-bye, and District 1, which has been traditionally North County and North City, traditionally a very black district, let's be honest, may be up for some changes. So I just thought that was an interesting article. And once again, Jason Rosenbaum, you know what? I really like Jason. I just wish he didn't hate me so much. And I wish
I love this
he wasn't coming after me all the time. Okay, ready for number 1?
Yeah, give it to us, Brad.
And now, big finish, Brad's number 1.
This is sort of an interesting one for me because of the fact that I made a parallel to something that happened to me because I was sort of involved with it on the periphery with my old friend Gary Whitaker. And by the way, I'm so sad to hear this. Gary Whitaker, I know you probably can't hear me, but Gary Whitaker is this incredibly talented guy who was the news director at Channel 4 when I was actually on TV, me, Brad, on TV doing traffic reports on Channel 4 years ago. Gary Whitaker was the news director, and he took me out to lunch a couple times, and he's this brilliant guy, and now he has cancer. And he lives in Springfield now. He was the general manager at Channel 33 then in Springfield. And the interesting part of the story was Gary Whitaker, back, I believe this was 1992, one day, one of his producers came to him and said, hey, I got this weird story. This kid came to me, a kid, meaning the time he's 21, 22 years old, pitched me a story about the abuse of young people by Catholic priests. And this particular kid was an altar boy in the Belleville Archdiocese. And he was abused by Catholic priests, sexually abused by Catholic priests in the Belleville Archdiocese. And the interesting part of it was, I can clear my voice again. The interesting part of the story was that he was now a male prostitute, and one of his customers was one of the priests that used to abuse him. True story. So they're going like, whoa, this is some heavy-duty stuff. So he goes up the food chain to his general manager at the time, Alan Cohen. They bring in the station attorney. They run this bit by him. They go, okay, here's the guardrails. You can't do this. You can't do that. So they go back to this young guy and they say, okay, fine. Are you going to meet up with him? Yes, going to meet up with him in the Adams Mark Hotel, which was at the time right across the plaza from Channel 4 when they were downtown St. Louis. So they set some cameras up in the room, and the priest shows up. They go into the room. Priest gets a little bit funky. He gets scared for some reason. He's in and out in 5 minutes, and he's gone, and he leaves. So they killed the story. They don't do anything with the story. But Eric Mink, who at the time wrote a column in the Post-Dispatch, came out and found out this story and put it on the front page that, how dare Channel 5 or Channel 4 try to set up a Catholic priest? We all know Catholic priests are white as the driven snow, and they're just wonderful people, and how there can't be anything wrong with Catholic priests. And this terrible Channel 4 and Schnooks and a bunch of other Catholic-based advertisers boycotted the station, and it was a big deal. And Gary ultimately was asked to fall on the sword and resign, which he did. And ironically, that's how he came to work for me for a while until he got his next gig. He actually helped me run my news operation. Okay. And the part of this is that this story went unreported for almost a decade. And it wasn't until the Boston Globe, and there's I think this movie won like an Academy Award. The movie was called Spotlight. And the movie was about the investigative division of the Boston Globe, who did pretty much the same thing. Found out about priest abuse in the Boston Archdiocese. And have you ever seen this movie, John?
I have not, no.
John, don't go see it because you like it too much. So okay, here's my roundabout. I'm going backwards into this thing. I'm backing into my story, okay? The story which I find out fascinating was the same thing, different circumstances, has been happening in Minneapolis. That this Somali deal where the Somalis were stealing all this money, and we kidded about it here because we had our own version of it. Who was the lady out there that had the $1 million house in St. Charles? She was getting all the COVID money, and she was supposedly feeding thousands of kids. And when they went to her quote-unquote food kitchens, it was like a little tiny bar with like a little tiny kitchen in the back with like 5 tables out front. Remember that whole crazy story? Okay.
Connie Bobo.
Right.
Connie Bobo.
Connie Bobo. Okay. The same thing was happening in Minneapolis, and there were people raising red flags about this. But you know what happened, John? You know what happened?
Oh, what happened in the end?
The people, the Somalis who were being investigated, who were stealing, now some people claim, $1 billion of money, they said, oh, you're just coming after us because you're racist. We're Somali people. We're brown and black people. And you're coming after us because we're like interlopers. We're the new people in town. And you're coming after us because of our skin color. And guess what happened, John?
What was finally found out, Brad?
Well, but for a long time, everybody backed off. Everybody went, oh, yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to be called a racist, do you?
Right. And there's an excellent article that was, I read a couple of them. This was on Fox News last week, and the title was How Fears of Being Labeled Racist Help Provide Cover for the Exploding Minnesota Fraud Scandal. And it chronicles all these. And at one point in time, a couple of these people who ultimately now who are already in jail or going to jail, they actually sued the state or the federal government or the county government, whichever was coming after them, saying, hey, they're coming after us because they're being racist. We're not doing anything wrong. And the cases were dropped because of the fact that, oh, my God, it's the race issue. We can't touch that with a 20-foot pole. You know what I'm saying? And
so we did find out and so I've just seen headlines about this, Brad, and I haven't clicked on any of them. It did turn out that the Somali fraud stuff was true.
Exactly. And just my crazy parallel with the Catholic situation. Oh, we can't. That's terrible. You Channel 4 people, the priests wouldn't do anything like that. There's no way the priests would be playing around with little boys. There's no way that would ever happen. The priests are good. Catholic people are wonderful. The priests are beyond reproach. Get what I'm saying, John? See my parallel?
I get what you're saying, Brad. I see the parallel there. So both times people backed off because they said, how dare you question this institution or this set of people?
Right. And the whole crazy thing about this, you read this Somali thing, and this article goes into detail, and I've read a couple other articles. I did sort of a deep dive on this. This happened again and again and again, where the investigators were finding out all this crap about the same kind of scenario we had here, where, a small restaurant was feeding 20,000 kids a day. I'm going like, come on.
Can't happen. But right. Nobody wants to kick the tires of that story because you'd be accused of just asking questions. Get out of here.
Right. And you'd be considered a racist. Now, the interesting part of this, in C Block, when I found this out, and I heard another talk show host talking about this, and I thought to myself, I did the John Combest thing. I thought to myself, Brad statistics, I don't know about that. So John, did a quick search. I did the same thing with this guy, and everything he said came out true. And I'll talk about that in the C block if you want, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I think the Somalis, by the way, the big takeaway that we learned from story number 3, the Somalis just need more yard signs.
They need Tom Smith.
I heard that Vince Lombardi had a playbook for Somalis, and it did not include yard signs, which is why they've been pilloried in national media.
They need Jane Pushkar. Okay, ready?